Let's welcome our special guest for this week's Syracuse expert writer from SBNation's Troy Nunes is an absolute magician. Kevin Wall, welcome to the show, Kevin.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we're happy to have you. I want to start out asking you just a simple question just to kind of break the ice. How long have you been a Syracuse fan?
Long time. I was an undergrad at Syracuse in the 90s, and that's when I became an Orange fan.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Alan and I are both Clemson graduates ourselves, and we thank you for coming on the show. So let's get into the segment. We call it the Eyes of the Enemy. So basically, we go down the Clemson schedule to talk to expert writers from each team to kind of get a closer look behind the scenes at each of our opponents. And we just kind of try to knock you out with five quick questions, and then we're done. How does that sound?
Sounds great, guys.
All right, so let me start you off with the first one. So Dino Babers is coming off an amazing 10-win season. One of their toughest losses came at Clemson, and I'm sure it was tough for us to watch, but thankfully we won. I'm sure tougher for you since you had to travel back to Syracuse after losing that game. What are you hearing from the fans as far as expectations for this season? Is it another 10-win season?
Yeah, I think a lot of people here are excited. The way the team finished last year, excited about the direction of the program, and I think a lot of people are looking at 9 or 10 wins. A lot has to happen for that to come true again for Syracuse. So I think somewhere in that 8-win range would be a great season. But a lot of the fans are super pumped.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Alan, hit him up with the second question.
Yeah, many Clemson fans are obviously confident, a little cautious about the September 14th matchup at Syracuse. You guys have given us a lot to be cautious about over the last few years. Your offense has been great. Mainly one reason I think Clemson fans are a little optimistic is because, the biggest playmaker, Eric Dungy, is gone. So do you think there's going to be a fall off of the offense under new quarterback Tommy DeVito?
It's going to be a different offense, I think, under DeVito. He's a kid who was Dino Babers' sort of preferred quarterback for the system. He's an Elite 11 quarterback in high school. He's not the runner that Dungy was. So I don't know that you'll see as many design quarterback runs from this team. But he seems to be a more accurate downfield passer. And so I think the Syracuse offense will look to take advantage of his arm and look a little bit differently in terms of what they're going to run this upcoming year.
Who would you say are other? It sounds like Tommy DeVito is the real deal and somebody that we shouldn't sleep on. Are there any other players that Clemson fans should really be looking out for, or really put the ACC on notice as a whole?
Right. So the top two returning guys are Mo Neal at running back and Sean Riley at receiver. But Syracuse has an interesting situation. They had two transfers, Abdul Adams, who came from Oklahoma, and Tristan Jackson, who came from Michigan State. They sat last season, but both played in the bowl game against West Virginia, and they both scored. And so they look like guys who might come in and right away take over in terms of being a Adams looks like a bruising running back, so he seems like the guy who could be the goal line back. And Jackson could take over for Jamal Custis on the outside and become the deep threat for Syracuse. So I think those guys are the ones that fans get excited about seeing in the bowl game, and seeing them in a featured role this season makes people feel pretty good about what DeVito will have to utilize.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Syracuse Orange really had Clemson back into a corner last year. Obviously, I was at the game. It was a great comeback win from the backup quarterback, actually the third string quarterback, Chase Bryce. So they came up a little short this time, unfortunately for the Orange. But do you think the defense will be able to close it out this year at home?
I think the concern is what you saw in the end of that game was when Clemson just went to the run game and was able to dominate. And so Syracuse loses two of their linebackers, and the strength of this defense are the defensive ends, Kendall Coleman and Alton Robinson. Both had double digits in sacks. And the secondary looks really strong. You've got freshman All-American Andre Cisco at safety. But replacing the linebackers is a challenge. And so you wonder about, if Syracuse does get behind again against Clemson, can they stop ATN again? Can they keep him in control? And that's a big factor, and actually probably one of the bigger concerns for Syracuse fans, heading into next season is, are the younger linebackers ready to step up and take over?
Yeah, we know exactly what you're talking about on our end because we're having to replace 3 linebackers, and really the whole defensive front
Right.
seven is going to be new. Maybe not so new to some of us who study it or report on it, but definitely new to most of the fans. And you're going to be names that you haven't heard of before. Obviously, we still have just about everybody coming back on offense, so we're not too concerned with that. Do you? Well, let me say this before I ask you this question.
Yeah.
I'm the type of person where I know a lot of Clemson fans aren't going to agree with me on this, but I really do want more ACC teams to be performing at a high level. I want to see the conference do well because I'm just so sick and tired of the SEC saying, just shoving it down our throat. Really, it's not even the top teams that shove it down your throat as much as it is the middle and the low teams that like to just throw SEC
Right.
in your face. How do the Syracuse fans feel the same way?
Yeah, I think so. When we get a lot of comments because on our website we joke a lot about how Syracuse has as many wins over Clemson the last 2 years as the SEC. And so people always get mad and defensive and say, "Oh, if you play the SEC schedule, you couldn't beat Kentucky or South Carolina." And so, you don't get an opportunity to really prove yourself until the conference elevates. And so Syracuse got a bowl game against West Virginia. But you want to be in a position where even if you don't beat a Clemson and they're in the playoff, you can get an Orange Bowl bid and you're going to play a quality opponent. And for whatever you think about bowl games and outcomes of bowl games, if the ACC starts winning some New Year's Six bowl games against the SEC or the Big Ten, it's certainly going to raise the profile of the conference, especially in the media and fans' eyes. And so, Syracuse fans were used to that sort of Big East and then ACC basketball where you can finish, maybe outside of the top two and then take a deep tournament run and people respect the conference. And obviously we want to see that in football and we want to be part of it.
So, what's your prediction for the Clemson Syracuse game? I'll put you on the spot right here.
I mean, I think you obviously have to favor Clemson right now as the defending champs. I know you guys lost a lot, but like you said, you returned most of your weapons on offense. The concern for Syracuse, it's the home opener, it's homecoming. You hope that people don't look ahead because Syracuse opens on the road with Liberty in Maryland. Um, if they're 2-0, it's a primetime game. There's a lot of hope around Syracuse that game day will be on campus for the first time for football. So people here are pumped. Ticket sales are through the roof. And so the crowd's going to be loud. It's not a big stadium. It's about 49,000, but when it's packed, it's noisy. And with the dome, it's going to be loud. And so I think it'll be one of those games that's really close towards the end. Right now, I would lean towards Clemson. I think until they lose, they're the champs, and Syracuse is going to have to play a really close to perfect game to beat them. But I think it will be close, like it's been.
Well, Clemson's definitely got a bunch of teams at the start of their schedule that are going to be difficult for them, and definitely teams that they can't overlook. Towards the end of the schedule, middle of the schedule, not as tough, but Syracuse is definitely one of them. And all the fans here know. I'm sure we're going to get to know Tommy DeVito really quick.
Right.
Starting out this season, I look forward to seeing what Syracuse can do. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed the Eyes of the Enemy segment tonight with Kevin Wall from SB Nation's Troy Nunes is an absolute magician.